appropriate furniture and provision of curriculum, compliant teaching and learning materials to ensure optimal educational setting. And C, enhance employment condition for our teachers, implementation of the measures aimed at improving the recruitment, retention, and working conditions of ECD educators to promote high-quality teaching standards. And D, strategic partnership with Kenya Literature Bureau in strengthening collaboration with the KLB to facilitate the provision of high-quality instructional and learning materials that align with the national curriculum. And finally, consistent employment of qualified ECD teachers, ensuring that there is regular recruitment and placement of professionally trained and certified ECD teachers to maintain high standards of early childhood education. The challenges in the implementation of ECD in Nandi County is the resource constraints. There are significant limitations in the available resources which adversely affect the recruitment of the adequate number of qualified teachers, the procurement of essential teaching learning materials, and provision of comprehensive training on curriculum-based education. And finally, the environmental and structural challenges. The county faces emerging environmental issues, including flooding, high winds, and that compromise the structural integrity of
his numbers, $500 billion. He's going to
owning a home at TBC Views is as simple as 1, 2, 3.
For Apple.
We accept various payment options, including cash, mortgage, and installments of up to 24 months. To start your home ownership
talks
journey,
in Geneva were very friendly, and the relationship is very good. We're not looking to hurt China.
Proven instrumental in building capacity and expediting the execution of ECD programs. And B, active stakeholder engagements, resource provisions, consistent involvement of stakeholders, particularly parents, substantially augment the county government initiatives by ensuring that necessary resources are available to support ECD education. The best practices with regard to VTCs is one, partnership for skills development. We have established strategic partnership with various sectors, including multinational industries, Eastern Produce Kenya, and many other in the hospitality industry. For example, the private investors of hotels such as Allen's Hotel and many others, and construction firms within the county. These alliances facilitate apprenticeships and on-job training and the donation of essential equipment, thereby enhancing skills development. And B, stakeholder collaborations for youth engagements, collaboration with religious organizations and local community leaders to raise awareness among the youth about the opportunities available in VTCs. This approach fosters community support. And C, inclusive and gender responsive measures. We are implementing an inclusive policies by reserving bursary sponsorships to disadvantaged groups. This ensures that we have equitable access to training programs and promote gender responsiveness within the initiatives. And D, promotion of income generating activities, encouraging VTCs to integrate income generation activities into their programs. Production workshops such as those offering tailoring and carpentry not only provide practical training but also generate some revenue to sustain institutions. These best practices collectively contribute to the robust and inclusive development of VTCs, ensuring that VTCs remain responsive to the evolving needs in the community. The challenges in the implementation of VTC's program: societal stigma and cultural bias. Vocational training is often unfairly perceived as a pathway for those who may not have succeeded academically. There is therefore necessitating additional resources to counter such negative stereotypes. High student attrition rates. Many students discontinue their training due to insufficient insufficient financial support. There are economic challenges or combined with the tendency for some students to seek immediate, casual, and other forms of employment after acquiring only limited skills significantly undermines the program retention. Number C, gender stereotypes in course enrollment. Persistent gender biases limit participation in VTC programs. For example, beauty therapy is predominantly associated with the females, whereas building and construction is typically viewed as of male domains, thus restricting cross-gender participation in various fields. Inadequate resources for training, tools and equipment. The chronic shortage of necessary tools and equipment hampers the effective delivery of practical training, adversely affecting the overall quality of education provided by the centers. And E, limited geographical access to the training centers.
Never made sense to me. It's not fair. And they've agreed to open China, fully open China. And I think it's going to be fantastic for China. I think it's going to be fantastic for us. And I think it's going to be great for...
Certain areas remain underserved as students from the communities face different...
Remove all of its non-monetary barriers. They've agreed to do that. Well, they're very numerous. But again, to me, the biggest thing that came out of that meeting is they've agreed. Now we have to get it papered, but they've agreed to open up China. It's going to be great for everyone.
Competition from national TVET institutions. VTCs encourage and training institutions as a challenge. This is compounded by the lowered entry requirements to institutions such as those offering Kenya certificate or primary education. Each of these challenges must be addressed through targeted policies, and the lessons learned from the implementation of VTCs enhance enrollment through stakeholder engagement, and B, effective partnerships and collaborations. The strategic partnerships with organizations such as KCB Foundation, to the Ajiri Program, Computer Aid International have not only boosted enrollment figures but also enriched the quality and scope of training. Industry sponsorship leading to trainee absorption. Firms that sponsor trainees, particularly in sectors like hospitality, often secure a pipeline for skilled labor with sponsored trainees, frequently transitioning into employment with these firms. And D, impact of county government sponsorship. The introduction of government bursaries has had a marked effect on the enrollment rates, increasing from 1,600 students in 2016 to 2,400 students in 2025. This outcome underscores the critical role and the financial support in expanding access to vocational training. Diversification of the funding sources. Over-reliance on government funding has led to delays in the program implementation. The county now actively engages partnerships with non-state actors and promotes income generation activities and alternative funding sources, thus ensuring greater financial sustainability. These insights collectively highlights the importance of stakeholder engagement, strategic partnerships, and diversified funding in enhancing the effectiveness and sustainability of VTC program in the county. Number 8, Chair, submit a copy of the scheme of service for ECD teachers adopted by the county governments. Please find attached a copy of the scheme of service for ECD teachers as adopted by the county. This document outlines the roles, the responsibilities, and that is annexure. That is captured under Annex 8. Annex 8. Number 9, Chair, provide a copy of the ECD curriculum that is implemented in the county, and please find attached the ECDE curriculum, and that is Annex 9A. We have the pre-primary 1 curriculum, Annex 9B pre-primary 2 curriculum, 9C rationalization of learning areas. The county government of Nandi hereby expresses its gratitude to the Education Committee of the Senate for the support and the oversight in ensuring that there is efficient administration of county affairs, particularly within the education sector. In keeping with our steadfast commitment to administrative excellence, we will diligently review the recommendations arising from these committees' deliberations and thoughtfully incorporate the insights into our subsequent policy implementations. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, can I get because I'm going for another meeting just
Okay.
Chair,
thank you.
On VCT, with your indulgence, because there are many committee meetings ongoing at the same time.
I'm not
Chair,
called one.
Chair, I'll just ask one question so that I can sit ground to my ground. Governor, it is good you are serving your second term. In financial year 2019-2020, under Ministry of Vocational Training, counties were given 2 billion Kenya shillings as conditional grants for rehabilitation of youth polytechnics. Nandi got 32 million Kenya shillings. Can you give us a schedule of how many youth polytechnics was used 32 million to do repairs and renovations? Coming in mind, there is I'll just use one example. Sigilai VTC, I think it is somewhere in around Lesos ward. You have in the 3 financial years, Sigilai, in 3 financial years, I think it's around Olduga, in 3 financial years, you have allocated consistently 5 million, including this financial year of 2023-2024. Yet, according to your people's investigation who went on the ground, through your chair, on 29 November 2024, they found that in the money that has been allocated and building, because I can see in your allocation you have allocated 5 million for construction of tuition block for Sigilai VTC, Vocational Training Center of Youth Polytechnic, but the foundation strip and the structural strength and integrity of the VTC is in question. Yet consistently for the last 2 financial years, even in your appropriation, because you have answered your answer from 2021 to 2024, you have consistently allocated 5 million. Why is it so? Chair, and finally, he has alluded to the fact that most of these VTCs, how many youth polytechnics or vocational training centers, Governor, are there in Nandi that are functional and complete? And then finally on the instructors, how many are the instructors that work in our polytechnics work on PNP or contractual? And do you normally subject them to refresher to ensure, because Chair, I have visited most of the VTCs in Nandi and they are very archaic and old machines.
Subsidize the health care of foreign countries, which is what we were doing. We're subsidizing others' health care. Countries where they paid a small fraction of what for the same drug that what we pay many, many times more for. And we'll no longer tolerate profiteering and price gouging from Big Pharma, but again, it was really the countries that forced Big Pharma to do things that, frankly, I'm not sure they really felt comfortable doing, but they've gotten away with it, these countries. The European Union has been brutal. And the drug companies actually told me stories. It was just brutal how they forced them. The European Union suing all our companies, Apple, Google, Meta, they're suing all of our companies. They end up, they have judges that are European Union-centric, and they get rewarded 15 billion, 17 billion, 20 billion, and they use that to run their operation. It's not going to happen any longer than I can tell you. tell you a story. A friend of mine who's a businessman, very, very, very top guy. Most of you would have heard of him.
Push towards modernizing
brilliant business
in our VTCs, and we will continue striving as we get the resources. Again, for
the fat shot.
Provide that schedule, because that is not an answer that we can give it right here. We can provide a schedule of how many VTCs, what was done with the 36 million, because that is a specific question that you have asked here. It wasn't part of the request at that point.
Governor, it is 32 million, not 36.
Okay, 32 million, yeah. Sigilai VTC, we are doing administration block within Sigilai VTC. The cost of it is, the budgeted figure was 5 million. I will need to confirm the exact contracted sum. With regard to the integrity of structural integrity of the building, that is, we are hearing from you. We do not have an issue with that, and therefore, if there is need to check, we can check that. But really, that is not within our knowledge, as it were.
Yeah, but Governor, you have your own public works team. I didn't say, but in your own report on 29 November 2024, your people visited Sigilai and they did that report. Unless you are saying you are not aware what is happening, it would be a fair answer. But they visited on the ground.
Where is the report?
And the report is there.
Where?
I have it.
Just share the report.
I will table it with the
yeah.
committee.
Yeah.
Chair, I will table it with the committee, but the fact remains that the integrity construction of that, and Chair, you know, Governor, you have said you allocated 5 million and you are not aware of contract sum. The question is, as I conclude, Chair, is on this 5 million, the integrity foundation of the building is in question. We have closed the financial year of 2023-2024, where Governor, in our NTD 4118, one of, apart from Swirwa, Metete, Kipsebo, Kaptel, Serem, Cheptarit, one of the VCTs I'm asking is on Sigilai in Olesos Ward that received 5 million. So my question is, the Governor is not aware of the report, is not aware whether 5 million have been expended nor the contract sum. So it would be fair that the money was allocated. But when you go there, because I visited there personally when I went to SEK Koimur in Oluka, there is nothing on the ground. It is still a bare. So the question is, where did this 5 million go?
So again, as you can hear, the senator is saying the ground is bare, and then says the integrity is in question. So really, we just
Governor, if I can guide on this, Senator, with all due respect, if you can make that one of the projects we are going to visit, because it is your word against the governor. So if you can, we can make it one of the projects when we go to visit, and at the same time, because I can see you've got so many questions on TVETs, and you are the #1 oversighting as person, I don't want to call you an officer, senator of that county. I can see you will not be able to interrogate these questions very well. And since we are planning a visit, and I said you are going to go by your calendar and the calendar of the governor, of course, we can handle this issue of TVETs when we go to Nandi, and it can be a substantive agenda when we go to Nandi, so that we can exhaustively exhaust all the issues on TVETs, because I can see the governor actually has very good responses compared to what we've gotten from other governors. What we are lacking are actually figures and for us to compare, as it was put by the vice chair. So I would guide that since our meeting includes a visit to the county, Governor, if it is well with you too, as it is for the committee, I can guide that we do the TVETs when we visit the counties, because we need to give a report, and we'll have to give a report after a visit, so that we are able to give a fair report to both our senator, or the Senator of Nandi, and the governor of Nandi.
Madam Chair, can I ask my question? I don't need to be answered, so that when we go there, at least you'll have prepared, as the way he did for Chirage. Just asking the questions.
Yes.
Governor, mine is, what is the cost of training in the VTCs? 2,
Chirage, I wish you could also listen to the questions, because I'm sure you'll have your own version of answers when we go, because they're just questions.
Get the answered.
No, I want to listen.
Okay, just 1 minute.
Are you guiding me to wait?
Go ahead.
Okay. Governor, why not increase bursaries to these VTCs students if there is high student attrition rate? The last one, in your response, you gave bursaries to 2,499 students in VTCs, yet the enrollment is 2,400. Did you give bursaries to students outside the county? Madam Chair, I don't have anything useful to
Okay, Governor, also maybe what could be as a subsidiary question is, can you give us the percentages of transition of students from class 8 to TVETs and from 4 to university, so that it can guide us to know how many other kids you are leaving out, those who you've not been able to mob and put them somewhere, because that is why I think that's where the issue of TVETs comes in, so that we can be able to help your county in mopping up the students who have not been able to transit to the universities, and also how you are dealing with the stigma, as you have put it here very well, of TVETs being seen like an institutions which are taken by those who have not excelled well in examinations. I think that way we are going to be fair to you, so that with all the other subsidiary questions that we're going to have, our secretariat will forward, and then when we visit you, because we'll have a courtesy call, of course, and we'd expect you maybe to even accompany us to your best and your worst, because every county has got the best and the worst centers, so that we can at least come up with a fair report on Nandi County, which will be satisfactory to both you and the oversighting senator, as per se, and this committee which is responsible for oversighting this particular function of
we're going to pay what Europe's going to pay. We're going to all pay. Now, there may be some countries in...
And if we can get that,
sacrifice that, but and help them.
We have captured with our team, but we don't want to leave anything out. But maybe a
price there is in the world, we will get. Whoever is paying the lowest price, that's the price that we're going to get. So remember that. So we're no longer paying 10 times more than another country. Whoever is paying the lowest price, we will look at that price and we will say that's the price we're going to pay. Most favored nations, that's what it is. One breast cancer drug costs Americans over $16,000 per bottle, but the same drug from the same factory, manufactured by the same company, is 1/6 that price in Australia and 1/10.
That's a clarification from...
in Sweden, 1/10 for the identical product. A common asthma drug costs almost $500 here in America, but costs less than $40 in the United Kingdom. So $40 in the United Kingdom, which is where this gentleman told me he paid a small amount for his shot. But think of that. So $40 versus $500 here. That's not even bad. There are much worse examples. And the weight loss drug, Ozempic, costs 10 times more in the United States than in the rest of the developed world. 10 times more. Why? Why? What did we do? Suckers. But we never had a president that had the courage to do this. And nobody knew the system like I do. I mean, I've gotten to know this system so well. And I don't think it's fair that it benefits Obamacare. Obamacare is a failure. It's not a good health care. It works. I made it work. I had an obligation to make it work, or an obligation to let it die. I chose that we had to make it work. I had to make it as good as possible. And I had a choice. I could have let it fail, or make it as good as possible. As good as possible means it was still not very good, but it survived, and we did the right thing. But this makes everything work. And I don't want to have a bad form of healthcare work because of the fact I was able to cut drug prices by 80 or 90%. So we're going to maybe come up with something. I think this gives the Republicans a chance to actually do a healthcare that's much better than Obamacare and for less money, which if you guys would work on that along with Congress. But I do want to say that Democrats could have done this a long time ago. They have fought like hell for the drug companies, and they knew they were doing the wrong thing. And it's going to be very hard. I was just telling the leader and the speaker that it's going to be very hard for the Democrats to vote against the one big, beautiful deal. The greatest tax cuts in history, greatest everything, but now you have the big drug prices because that's going to be included. It makes that whole situation different from a scoring standpoint. I just told them, I called them up about this. I said, I'm going to do something that's going to be very monumental, and you're going to be scoring. You better tell your people that this is going to score really well, and then add hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs to your list also. But as big as the tariffs are, this is something that really hits quickly. 5 years ago, I signed an executive order to confront this disaster, but only confront it in a minor way. It was a good confrontation, but never to this extent. And it took people a little while to understand a very complicated system. But Joe Biden, without any knowledge of what he was doing, terminated the policy and then pretended to negotiate under a new system. And then you take a look, 5 out of the 10 drugs that he negotiated are now over 200% more expensive in America than the rest of the world, and far more expensive than when he even got involved. Much more expensive than when he got involved. Joe Biden's plan was as you know, because you wrote about it, you don't say it very loudly, but it was a very big failure, was his whole presidency. First, I'm directing the U.S. Trade Representatives and Department of Commerce to begin investigations into foreign nations that extort drug companies by blocking their products unless they accept bottom line and very low dollar amounts for their product, unfairly shifting the cost burden onto American patients. And we'll be taking a look at that very strongly. The biggest thing we're going to do is we're going to tell those countries, like those represented by the European Union, that, that game is up, sorry. And if they want to get cute, then they don't have to sell cars into the United States anymore. It's a very big subject. And they won't get cute, because I'll defend the drug companies from that standpoint. They were given a price by the European unions and other countries. This is what you do. This is what we're going to pay. We're not going to pay any more. Let America pay the difference, because there was a big shortfall. Let America pay it. And that's what we did, but we're not doing it anymore. Next, my administration will secure what we're calling most favored nations drug pricing. The principle is simple. Whatever the lowest price paid for a drug in other developed countries, that is the price that Americans will pay. And we're using the term other developed countries because there are some countries that need some additional help, and that's fine. I think that's very good. Some prescription drug and pharmaceutical prices will be reduced almost immediately by 50 to 80 to 90%. Big Pharma will either abide by this principle voluntarily or will use the power of the federal government to ensure that we are paying the same price as other countries. To accelerate these price restrictions and reductions, my administration will also cut out the middlemen. We're going to totally cut out the famous middlemen. Nobody knows who they are, middlemen. I've been hearing the term for 25 years, middlemen. I don't know who they are, but they're rich. That I can tell you. We're going to cut out the middlemen and facilitate the direct sale of drugs at the most favored nation price directly to the American citizen. So we're cutting out, Bobby, the middlemen. It's so important, right? You got to do that. They're worse than the drug companies. They don't even make a product, and they make a fortune. It's very smart business people, that I can tell you. If companies make no significant progress toward most favored nation pricing, which we will insist that they do, so I think I'm wasting time talking about it. We're going to insist upon it. And we'll insist, and we're going to help the drug companies with the other nations, because those other nations do a lot of trading with us. They need our trade, just like China needed us very badly. They need us just as badly. We will do whatever we have to with trade, just like we did some great things with trade with India and Pakistan. It really helped the situation, very heated situation. Could have lost millions of people, more than millions, I mean, many millions of people. And they want to do business with America. We never used our powers that way. Never knew how. We never had people that knew how to do that.
Switch to in-store promotions that make shoppers actually notice and buy your products.
From other countries,
with Tokonomo's in-store marketing technology, brands come to life through sound, light, and engaging motion. Meet Shelfabot and VisiBubble and drive real shopper engagement with interactive displays. Ask for a demo today.
We charge them for doing business in America. In other words, we'll add it on to tariffs if they don't do what is right, which is everybody should equalize. Everybody should say the same price. And special interests may not like this very much, but the American people will.
Now,
I'm doing this for the American
welcome back.
people.
And
I'm doing this against the most
Mtuombe.
Sammy, I think that's the best thing. We really need prayers. I think tomorrow bring bishops here so that they just pray for us.
There's actually no prayer service on.
It's coming
Thursday? Is it Thursday or tomorrow? Tomorrow, actually.
Which one?
I can't remember. No.
Which one? The one for thugs and thieves.
Oh, sorry, Senator, don't go there.
But at least thugs and thieves need prayers.
Kuna national prayer dedication, so we'll pray.
The problem is
I was saying, sorry. I was reintroducing the session.
Don't go to church and pray and you're killing people, you are murdering, you are stealing.
During break, Senator, your mic is off. During break, a conversation continued, and now we have to make transition because you want to talk about things that don't divide us as much, which is on the National Government Constituency Development Fund. The National Assembly, like I told you, has been conducting sessions. Gitronga Mukunji, let me begin with you on this one. Why is it that we must keep the NGCDF despite several judgments coming from the courts saying that it is unconstitutional? And what are the chances of success this time?
I want to say that some NGCDF, National Government Constituency Development Fund, is a fund under siege. And the reason why it is under siege is because of a number of interests around that fund. First, this is not a fund that was established after the new constitution. It is a fund that has been there now for close to 20 years. And it is a fund that really targets very specific sectors of our development, and it's devolved under the constituency level. The rulings of the court, which we have got to acknowledge, really are also devoid of the fact that this fund is already a fund that is well utilized and used in the constituency level. They look at the legal part, and clearly that is why members of parliament are working so hard to ensure that we ensure whatever is not aligning with the constitution of Kenya really aligned. But I will say this, Sam, and this is my belief. In Kenya, we have a way of undoing things that are working for us. We have a way of doing things, trying to reinvent the wheel, whereas there are things that we can say that needs to be supported. Right. NGCDF is a fund that has actually been very impactful. Only 5% of NGCDF fund is used for administration purposes. Only 5%. That means out of the 58 billion normally in the budget or thereabout, a very small amount of money is used to manage CDF, and the rest goes directly to do projects that are very visible on the ground. And I believe, yes, we talk about devolution, But one of the challenges that was brought in by devolution is the fact that we devolved jobs, powers, but on matters development, we really did not do much on the devolvement of that. Almost close to all counties are using close to 80% of the money that is devolved to them for recurrent expenditures and salaries. So it tells you, you would go, yes, almost
that would be illegal because
it is absolutely illegal. But they can do nothing about it.
Thank you, Secretary Kennedy.
Actually, I'll give you an example of Embu. Embu does not do more than 2 billion Kenya shillings on their development budget.
And what is the total budget?
It goes around 7.2 billion. So it tells you that we have a challenge that really NTCDF comes and solves and curbs immediately. So I propose that while we are looking on how to ensure NTCDF does not go away, we also need to ensure it is legalized. I know we have been working very hard in the National Assembly, but I believe there is also an appeal case that is ongoing to ensure that NTCDF does not go anywhere. Last Friday,